Well, good morning. Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Well, we had to start early because you know why? We had a very special guest and we got so excited that we had to bring him on. You are in for a real treat. Let's do it without further ado. And now, by way of Nashville, Tennessee, he is the CEO of the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. He is the quintessential Englishman. He's the former drummer of Officer Dribble. He is the official real estate team for the Tennessee Titans, the Nashville Predators, and Topgolf Nashville, and the owner of the #1 RE/MAX team in the world 3 years running. You may see him on a billboard or with his Bernie Doodles, Reggie and Stanley. He's a brother, a son, a master troller. He is the man, the myth, the legend, Gary Ashton.
Hello, this is Gary speaking. How are you doing?
So that was probably be the best introduction I've ever had, and I don't know, probably just now. That was a little crazy.
So you're gonna drum on this, it's funny because you start looking at, the people that come over, and we've met a few times over the years, and I never knew that you were a master drummer. And
I actually have a drum right here. Just 1 second. Yeah, we're gonna do live. This one. Yeah, look. Just in case anybody doesn't. There you go.
Awesome. Gary, thank you very much for coming on. I really, really do appreciate it. We have so many followers that are looking forward to this interview for a while now. And, when we're talking about real estate and we're talking about, marketing, tell us a little bit about a little of your background. I know your background, but maybe
everything. You read on my whole the name of my dogs. The one thing you did get wrong, the name of the band was Officer Dibble.
Did I say? Oh, I'm sorry. I said Dribble. Oh, I lost. I did.
So Officer Dibble was the from the cartoon Top Cat, the undisputable leader of the gang, and then the policeman that was in it was called Officer Dibble. He was the one that would always keep Top Cat and his crew in line. So that's how the name of the band came out. And when we got signed to a management company, we weren't allowed to use that because we knew we were going to get into copyright problems and all that good stuff. So right. Yeah, Officer Dibble. So
it was a good segue into real estate because you've been drumming ever since, right?
Yeah.
You've been banging on the drums ever since.
Yeah. So my background, when I went to college, this is back in England, back in the dark ages before computers and things. But I was always interested in advertising and marketing. That's kind of what I liked. So that was what I did. I did marketing and business studies with marketing. I think was the course. So that's what got me into being able to then go work for an actual advertising agency in England. So when I was working at the advertising agency, I had lots of really interesting accounts like car dealers and home builders, funnily enough. So those are the guys that weren't the big, sexy, glamorous campaigns. It was just really functional stuff, but it enabled to get people through the door. So you're trying to work out what was the motivations for people to come to the site. So there's always a lot of offers and things like that. And then the band started taking off. And I did the band for a while. And then the band kind of broke up, disbanded. And that's when I moved to America because me and my dad had these, what you would call mom and pop motels. They were in the city of Leeds. And we wanted to move to a nicer area because where they were in Leeds was not a good area. It was a great business, great clientele because we had a lot of guys that were working on all the new construction, all the building sites. So they were awesome clients, but that there was a time when those contracts were going to be done. So I said, let's move to more of a touristy environment. So we started looking in England for like close to us, the Yorkshire Dales and things like that, and then I ended up seeing an ad so this is back in 1990, don't forget. I saw an ad in the back of the national newspaper just talking about properties, businesses for sale in Florida. And I'd just been to Florida for the first time in 1989 on vacation with the family. So we went to Orlando and Hollywood, Florida. And so loved it, loved America, thought it was fantastic. So in the end, we ended up, long story short, we sold the hotels. And then at the time, it was $2 to the pound. So everything we were looking at in America was half price. And then we ended up buying a place in Clearwater Beach. So did that for 10 years. And then if you really want to know, then I was still using the advertising kind of knowledge I had of how to advertise to get people to come to our motel. So we would advertise in the back of the paper there, get some massive exposure because in England's essentially the size of Florida, but so you have national newspapers that cover everything. So I knew how to get ads in there. And then, so we did really well with that. Had lots of Brits coming over, lots of Brit advertising in the back of the British Airways magazine. So we had all these people coming over and it was great. And then the internet started maybe the mid 90s, 95, 96. So we were one of the first people to actually have a website for the hotel. And so prior to that, we had one of those trifold brochures that everybody has. So we just essentially took everything from there and then put that onto a website. So that was cool. So now I could, in the newspaper, and people didn't really all have web access to like home computers back in the 90s. I mean, they were starting to, but it wasn't everybody. Not like today where you can do it on your phone. But we would. I used to go to a website. The URL was Bay Breeze, the Bay Breeze Motel. His URL was Bay Breeze 1. Anyway, so then I realized that website was just the trifold brochure. But then I realized that this website that we had, whoever was hosting it, allowed us to create additional pages and then allowed us to copy the HTML code and start building additional pages. And then I figured out how I wanted the user, now it's called like the user interface, so how the flow of people's navigation around the site, which is, I was trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. And that's how I kind of got into doing the website stuff, which then became valuable when I moved from Clearwater to Nashville, and I always tell people that I always say I'm a pretty good drummer, and I thought it was really good until I got to Nashville. Then I realized I'm completely average because there's so many people here so talented, right? So I had to do the 1031 exchange from the sale of the motel. So that's what opened that door for real estate. But then I didn't realize that, like I said, I thought I was going to be a touring musician, big session guy, and then realized how bad I was compared to everybody else.
But aren't you that now? You're doing the same thing. You're just doing it in real estate. Because, when you got into real estate in Nashville, you kind of a mutual friend, Morgan Carey, you started hosting your website with our real estate webmasters, and he's he's the best in the business. I mean, there's no other better real estate website developer than Morgan.
So my first thing was actually thinking back, I had I can't remember what they're called now. It was another website that was. I had Craig Proctor's site for a while. Then I had another site, and then I realized I wanted more control. So to be able to build something, because back then Morgan was just doing purely custom sites. So then we created a custom site. So I was one of the first people to actually fly up to Nanaimo. I think there was a couple of other people before me, but I couldn't remember how to say Nanaimo. I didn't even know where it was. It's one of those names that after a while you can say it, Nanaimo. But so, yeah, I was one of the first ones to fly up there and met with Morgan, sat down with the developers. It was awesome. Like those guys are, working code. You can see them typing, and it's just a line of like literally just code, and they see it so differently. And then they go hit enter, and then on the other screen, everything they've just done appears that you asked and say, hey, could we move this to here, maybe have that link right there? And they would go, and then there it was done. Yeah, so I think I'm probably now Morgan's oldest long-standing customer. So because that was in 2003 or 4 when I first went to. It
was. I also had a REW site around 2003, 2004 with and you might know Cesar Parisi as well.
Yeah.
So he also did one, and we used to collaborate all the time. And you know what I found out is very quickly, like, so you took your REW site, and not only did you build the site, but you built your team. You built the people to convert the leads, right? What happened to me is that I built the site, and I would get leads, but I didn't have the systems and processes to convert those leads. So it never, it took off, but it didn't take off to a bigger extent.
I didn't have the systems and processes either. It just, because when I got the site, and then I ended up getting, because I initially started off doing pay-per-click way back when, because this website called Google came out. Prior to that, I was using whatever, I can't remember now, whatever the site was before, that everybody would use. And then Google came out, so that was cool. And then I would see these things at the top, the pay-per-click ads, and I was like, how do I get to that? I figured out how I got to be number one, and it was a penny a click. There was no real competition. And then, so I was getting maybe 1 or 2 leads a day, and for a penny. I mean, I think my budget was like $10 a day or something like that. So. And that kept me more than busy. And then I started spending more. Then I was getting more leads. But then the full progress was that I ended up then meeting the guys that own Nashville.com. So back in the day, Nashville.com used to rank for absolutely everything. It was just a geo domain. Google hadn't got into its algorithms yet. And so the owners of Nashville.com were trying to reach the owners of Remax, and they wanted to go to the top because they had this valuable lead generation tool, but they could never get to you could call and say, hey, can I speak to Dave Lineker, please? And there's no way you're going to get through to him, right? So then they started talking to the local agents and brokerages, and couldn't get through to anybody there. I think they ended up getting through to one brokerage, and it went to the relocation department. So that kind of made sense. So these leads that were coming in were going to the relocation department, but they were sitting on them and then handing them out to agents maybe 4 or 5 days later, which, as we all know, that's, it's a dead lead by then. So then they looked and saw who was number one in pay-per-click, and I would bounce up and down, but I would always try and stay at number one. And they contacted me and said, hey, I think it was $2,000 a month for this site. And I was like, whoa, this is back in 2004. No, 2004, sorry. 2004. And I was like, $2,000 a month. Whoa, that was ridiculously expensive. And so I was a bit concerned about that. And they said, look, we'll give you free leads for a week just to prove our concept. So they did. And so I always say, it was like, with the leads I was getting, it was like drips from a faucet, a tap, like just dripping. And then when they switched on the leads, it was just like they turned it on. And then that's when it became so many leads, I didn't know what to do with them. So at that point, then I just said, anybody in the brokerage says, hey, do you want a lead? And just give me a referral, and I was throwing them all out. And that's when you realize that if I throw you a lead, and then I got no way of knowing or tracking, I had no control to be able to. There's no accountability, I guess, is that I could just give you, and then a week later I say, "Where happened to that Mr. and Mrs. Smith from New York that were coming down?" Yeah, I never got hold of them. So there was no motivation because that agent probably then had their own business and then just kind of forgot about it. So that's how the team developed, because needed to start tracking. Well, that was the idea, to start tracking what I was doing. So there wasn't any CRM essentially. Like REW kind of had one, but it wasn't great. I don't think they even had one back when I started.
No, I mean they were. I mean, I wouldn't say late to the game, but the people were harping on them to get a CRM, and whatnot, and then finally they incorporated CRM.
Yeah, they didn't even have a spiderable IDX back when I started. They just created really nice looking sites that ranked well.
But the one thing that they did do was integrate the multiple listings, or the listings inside it. See, because back then most of the companies were doing like IDX broker, and they were doing framing sites.
That's why I framed in for a long time, because they had whoever I used had a really, I can't remember the name, but it was out of Minneapolis, I think, and it was cool because they had the actual mapping feature, and you could zoom in, zoom out, and so I liked all that. I kept saying to Morgan, we need this, and then he ended up creating the spiderable IDX and doing everything that.
I remember between that and, I don't know if you were on Active Rain, but between that and Active Rain, really propelled my business during that during that 03-04 to about 2008, 2009.
Yep.
So good stuff. So you did get into your team. What was your first hire? Was it a buyer's agent? Was it an assistant? Because a lot of people are talking about teams, and they're talking about, you said you need control and accountability in a team. Who was your first hire?
First hire was a lady that was helping me distribute the leads. So back then we were using MSN Messenger, which that was my communication tool. So now now we use Slack, but back then it was MSN Messenger. And I just had a lady that I'd met. She had, how did I meet her? Her husband was something to do with tech, and we kind of got on, and he said, "Oh, my wife is working she had a baby," and so it was perfect for her. She could work remotely, which we all know now. That's lots of people do. And so we would just work on MSN Messenger. So she would see the leads coming in. I would have the 2 or 3 agents on MSN Messenger who was available, and then assign the leads that way. And so I quickly went from a couple of agents, moved to Remax in 2004, and I met with the owner of the brokerage, and I kind of said, "Hey, I need more agents. So is there anybody in the brokerage that needs leads or opportunities, as we call them now?" And so he put me in touch with a few agents, and that's how the team started. And then I negotiated a better split for those agents and things like that. And so they joined my team, but they were actually on my team. So there was a closed environment. So they actually were on my team. And then, that was in 2004 when I switched to Remax, I believe.
So what advice would you give to someone who is an agent that's successful, an individual agent? Maybe they have a buyer's agent or two, but they're really wanting to go to the next level. They're really wanting to, really propel their business and level up. What advice? Maybe even further question would be, what did you not know back then when you started that you wish you knew?
So the one thing I didn't know is that you can't overload people, which is what I would do. We had so many leads coming in. Oh, welcome to Stanley, just popping his head.
Oh, that's awesome.
What I would do is not fully appreciate that all I was doing was we were giving agent leads, and then we give them another one, and then we give another one, and then another one. So my analogy is, if you remember back in the day, the cabaret shows, they would have a guy with a pole and a plate, and they would spin the plates. I don't know if you remember those. Is that visual helping you?
No.
All right.
That must be an English thing.
No, they would just spin the plates. Anyway, I'll move on to another analogy. All right. So you'll get this one. So I would equate the number of leads coming into like a tennis ball machine. You know, when you practice tennis balls, they have that machine that keeps shooting out tennis balls. So if you look at each one of those tennis balls as a lead, every time a lead came in, it's like the tennis ball machine was just shooting tennis balls. So I could always catch the tennis ball because they were easy to catch. And then you would put it in your arm. Hang on, let me put that down there. So tennis ball comes in and you catch it and you put it here. That's a good lead. Oh, I'll look at that in a minute. Oh, another one. Let me put it here. Oh, another one. Put it here. After you've got like 10 or 12, you can still catch every lead because these are all good leads coming in. You still put them here. But when you've got like 15, 20, they start falling through. So those good leads are sitting on the floor. They've been abandoned, as it were. But I'm still catching all the leads. So my focus was always on the shiny new object. There's the leads, and I'm great. And then I'm passing them out. And that's when my problem is that I would give, David, do you want another lead? Oh yeah, I'll take another lead. David, do you want another lead? Oh yeah, I'll take another lead. David, do you want another lead? Yeah, I'll take another lead. I mean, I'm just overloading it. And the human nature is to take as much as possible, I believe, until you really educate yourself and then realize there's an element of less is more. All these kind of like sayings and platitudes actually have a basis in reality in that. So I now realize that I was giving too many agents too many leads. And Justin Haver, and we talked about this on when we met in Miami for the first time, and we were talking about this. I think it was and it was an REW conference, and I think it was 8 years ago, something like that. And then Justin was the same. He had all these leads coming in. Well, I think I'd figured out that if you get 100 leads, I always forget now because Justin's smarter than me, but you need like triple the agents, because for all of those leads coming in, a third of the leads, or what did I say? A third of the agents are going to be working leads, so they can't take more leads. A third of them are going to be, on vacation or taking some downtime because they just spent a whole 2 weeks just slogging it out. And then a third of those leads are going to be bad. So, I forgot what it was now. It made complete sense at the time. But so, if I was really regretting or the advice, I would make sure that people don't get overloaded with leads. There's an element of, you always want to take more, but like I said, less is more. And we've found that in the last couple of years. So, work closely with Scott as our sales director, tech genius guru. And then he's all about, we're giving them too many. Let's slow this down. Let's reduce their capacity, because once you become overloaded, then everything suffers, because you can't work that lead that you got 3 days ago, because now you focused on that other new lead. And like I said, you start dropping the ball.
Yeah, no, I mean it makes sense. A lot of times we do take on too much, and it's the same thing with goal setting. When you're setting too many goals for yourself, you're trying to achieve all of them. You achieve none of them. And the stats are all there. Getting into team building and such. What you've done this for a while now. You've put yourself in there.
Well, it's not just me. There's a whole team.
No, I know, and I was getting to that because I was saying, who has helped you along the way? Who are your partners? Because you're the face of the franchise, right? So who is your partners? Who's helped you get to that point? And when did you add them along the way? Because you don't go from 0 to 70 or 80 agents, overnight. You go from, you have steps, right? Things that, was it goal setting that helped you get there? And who got you to that point?
So the team just kept on growing because I like shiny objects, and I really like chasing the new leads and good ways to get new leads. So by default, if you start getting more leads, then you need more agents to help you with those leads. So by osmosis kind of thing, that agents on the team would go, oh, we got too many. And then they would meet another agent in the field and say, wow, you're always busy. How are you showing so many homes? I'm on the Ashton team. Is he still hiring? Oh yeah, we need agents. So we'd get other agents join just because of the talking within the real estate community. And then, funny story, I met Deborah Beagle, who's my business partner now, but back then was an agent that I met at, it's a long story, I'll tell you. So I had a car, it was in for service. I knew I was about to list the general manager of the Titans house. And this was in a subdivision called Laurelbrook. Laurelbrook is a gated community, pretty high end. And I knew I was about to list that because he was essentially leaving the Titans. And I thought, if I'm going to sell this house, I definitely need to know what's going on in the subdivision. And there was a broker open house, one of those progressive things where you go to one house and then the next one and the next one. So I said, I need to do that. So I got Johnny Lee, who's my other business partner. He dropped me off at the subdivision, at the first house, massive house, 16,000 square foot house, amazing house. And so he dropped me off, and I said, I'll just hitch a ride with an agent to the next house, which, lots of people do that. So this first house I was walking through, and then I bumped into this lady, super friendly, super nice. And we chatted, and this is an awesome house. And then keep on walking. And then 2 rooms later, I'd bump into her again. And I'd kind of laugh and say, oh, you stalking me? And then literally maybe 3 or 4 times I kept bumping into her. So then left that house to go to the next one. So I was outside, and then it was, one of those things where they valet all the cars. So as I was walking out, Deborah was just getting into her car, being valeted. She was with another lady. And so I said, hey, can I get a ride? And I think she thought, this is weird. This guy's, we met him like 3 times, but he's a realtor. It's a realtor event. We're only going, 50 yards to the next house. So, okay. So I hopped in, and then we just started chatting more and more, and became, very friendly, and just talking about real estate. I gave her my card because I said I wasn't the official realtor of the Titans at that time, but I was about to be. And so I said, I'm about to list Mike Reinfeld's house, and I'm getting the Titans account. And then I gave her a card. And then turns out that she knew who I was, I guess. This is back in 2011, I think. And so at that time, I think the brokerage I was in, they were talking about becoming the official realtor of the Predators. And I was talking about doing that with that owner, because I thought that would be good. Then we'd have the Titans and the Predators in the same brokerage. And so I didn't do that. I let the broker owner become the official realtor of the Predators. But Deborah was a massive hockey fan. So I thought I was doing her a favor saying, hey, you should talk, because now you should come join our brokerage and you can be involved in the hockey. I didn't realize she'd already had that conversation. So I thought I was being really smart and connecting with people. And so then, this is a long story, but then Deborah joined that brokerage, which was another Remax. But it was the year when she joined, it was the year of the lockout. So Deborah was like a big time producer that had come from Coldwell Banker. And then I would see her in her office, and office was awesome and super. It was perfection, and everything was nicely placed, completely opposite to the way I do things. And I would always say to her, hey, you should come and join my team, because Deborah was working with all these builders. And I was saying, you've got all the builders. I have all the buyers, because we were so buyer heavy. I said, oh, that's a perfect marriage. You can work with us. And then Deborah, who's ridiculously smart, realized, well, instead of me spending all this money on all these ads for these builders, Gary's already kind of doing that because of the presence that he has with his SEO and the number of leads he's generating and all that good stuff. So she joined the team. So just joined the team as an agent, and she was using the value of I call it the power of the team. Look at my dog. That's crazy.
That's awesome.
And so then Deborah's just a natural leader, then she would, when we have the team meetings, I'm very, a little awkward, and I'm not a great speaker. And so the team meetings we'd have, and then Deborah would just kind of naturally get up and start talking about all the stuff that she's passionate about, because she likes to train and impart her wisdom and knowledge to the agents. And so eventually she just took over, and then I wouldn't say anything in the meetings, and I would take a back seat because she was doing it. Once you realize somebody's way better, smarter, more likable, the agents really connected with Deborah, and she's, like I said, she's extremely smart and knowledgeable, and that became another way that the team would expand, because now you help them with retention. People aren't leaving, because Deborah eventually became the broker for our team. And
so really it's important when you think about it, and giving that story, it's important to think about the awareness of when you're having these conversations with all kinds of people and connecting, building relationships. You're not just building relationships with buyers and sellers or people that have a real estate need, or even just communities, but you're building, through real estate, through collaboration, through real estate agents, brokers, and vendors and such like that, and bringing it all into one team. I wanted to get into one quick thing, and I know we're way over.
Good.
But
I haven't even talked about my billboards yet.
well, we're going to get into the trolling thing, but because I think you are literally a master troller. I watch some of your Twitter stuff. Is freaking great. But when you're talking about Zillow, right? So when you say Zillow to a real estate agent, it either gives them anxiety or it gives them optimism. Whatever that might be, but in most cases it's anxiety, it's and such. But you kind of saw maybe a couple steps ahead and became that Zillow partnership, didn't you, in Nashville?
So we're the broker partner for Zillow offers. The one thing that, as much money as I spend on advertising and marketing, Zillow's got a bigger budget, and Zillow is nationally known. So I'm sure you have the same thing with your clients. They go, oh, I saw this awesome house, and here's the link. It's a Zillow link. And you go, well, how? You got my website. Why aren't you using that? Oh, it's Zillow. I use Zillow because it's the first thing that comes to mind a lot of times. So we have to battle with that. So it's all about creating brand awareness. So I do a lot of that. We do that with our clients. We do it with people locally. But Zillow still has, I don't know, it's just a world brand. So it's hard to fight that. So when that opportunity came, in reality, is like, if I don't take it, somebody else is going to take it. And I feel like we had the same core principles, because really what Zillow will tell you is they're always trying to make the customer experience the best possible. So sometimes, I don't agree with everything that they do, but I mean, that is their focus, and that's our focus, which sounds like a cliche again, but we're trying to create the best possible consumer experience with our agents. So it's twofold, that we're trying to make sure that our agents are educated and as knowledgeable as possible. And it's not purely about real estate. It's about all the peripheral services that are associated with real estate. The real estate journey, the experience, we're trying to make that one, as everybody says this, but it's true. You're trying to make it as stress-free as possible. You're trying to create so much added value that the knowledge that the agents have really helps with that client. And that's what Zillow is trying to do too. So we're aligned on a lot of things. And so, like I said, their branding, their awareness is pretty good. And so when that opportunity became available, I think we were the logical choice for them, because of our size, and we're already spending a lot on the premier agent, so they knew who we were, kind of thing. And like I said, for us it was a logical choice, and if I didn't do it, somebody else would have done it.
So I'll end it on like two questions, but how did someone get in to market share? Because you gradually, I mean, it's not overnight. Give like one tip on what you would first do if you went into a new market to try and gain some market share.
So that's extremely hard, because I mean, people keep saying to me, how come you don't go to Florida? How come you don't go to so-and-so? Can't you just replicate that model? And I honestly believe that it's luck. I always say it's luck, vision, and money. So I think I had some vision, I think I had some luck, and I had some money. So to go to another market, I don't know how we would balance that out. So I have some vision, obviously, of knowing what I've done now, but a lot of the things were luck, in that I started the team. I got my license in 2001. And I think that was the same year or a year later when the IDX became available, because I remember going to my managing broker at the time saying, so I can get a website, I can put every other agent's listings on there, and I don't have to put their phone number or their brokerage. That was what it was back then. And that was legal. And I just thought, well, that's amazing, because I'm a brand new agent. I don't have any listings, but all of a sudden now I can have a website with everybody else's listings on. Amazing. So I took advantage of that. So that was the luck that I was around at that time to be able to do that. I had some money because we'd sold the hotels back in Florida. So I had some money to invest. And then, I had the vision to see that was the way that was going. Like the internet, when I first started, there was still the magazines where you would look through and see all the realtors advertising homes. So I used to do that, but then my focus was on the internet, and I didn't really believe in the traditional forms of advertising back then. Now I realize, we've got it's as Gary V would say, it's that jab, 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 where does your right hook come from? So that's a combination of just having signs in the yards, having a strong SEO presence, having radio, having TV, and having billboards. So it's a combination of all those things, plus longevity. It's like you've been doing it. You can't just do it for a week. You've got to do it for a long time. So I have a really, really good friend of mine, me, Chris, and Justin. Chris Lendl, we've kind of come up in the ranks together, as it were. And so Chris is a perfect example of somebody who's developed a system, branding, and is now replicating that in other markets. So if you ever get a chance to talk to Chris, he would be, the guy's obviously super inspirational. So a lot of the ideas that people credit to me, like putting the billboard in
in Carolina.
Yeah, Carolina. But Chris was the first one to do that. So
that's awesome.
Chris did that with the Vikings, and he put the billboard in Philadelphia, and it was great because people go, "Well, what a waste of time putting the billboard over there." But what it did was obviously create this awareness on the local TV in Minneapolis, talking about what Chris was doing in Philadelphia. So that obviously that endeared him to the population in Minneapolis, and then obviously having that TV exposure. If you have a story for 45 seconds a minute about, what's that worth? It's the source, the credibility, social proof kind of thing. So anyway, so if I was going to a different market, what would the first thing I would do? I guess I would just try and join the number one team locally and learn from them. I did that when I got my license. The first guy that I worked with in the office was within that office, he was like the top agent. So I had no business. So I went to him and said, "Hey, is there anything I can help you with? I'm trying to learn, blah, blah, blah." And he said, "Well, I got these people calling on the signs. I don't have time to answer those calls. Here, you take." Back then it was a pager. You take the pager, and when those calls come in, you call. And so that's what I did. And then I became his buyer's agent. And that's what we can do. Find somebody that has too much business so that you actually have some business coming in, so you can start creating that foundation, because to come in with nothing is always very, very hard. Being aligned with a recognizable brand like, Remax, find the number one agent in the market, and then just start building your awareness of you personally by doing such a good job. And I think that's what happens is, if you do such a good job, people start to recognize that, and then you can build in the old school way, which is just by referrals. Because what we do is slightly different, but we're still trying to capitalize on the fact that if we do such a good job, those people are going to go, "That was amazing. David was an awesome agent. He's on the Gary team." But they're going to start referring us back. So it's just creating that overall, like I said, it's a bit of a platitude. Everybody says it, but you trying to create such a good experience that those people come back to you. And then by osmosis, other agents that work with you, because you're knowledgeable, you're professional, and opportunities come from things like that, I found. In the past.
Well, Gary, I can't thank you enough. I know we went way over time that I told you I would, and I certainly appreciate it. But I always end the discussion on two very, very lighthearted questions. One is, what's your favorite streaming series of all time, and what are you currently watching, if you watch?
No, I don't watch I kind of became a cord cutter.
Okay.
So yeah. So, but my favorite was probably The Wire. You remember that?
Sure. Yeah.
HBO series, which is an amazing show. And what was the second one?
So, what are you currently watching, if anything?
So I think I told you I'm a musician. really at heart, or a drummer. So there's sometimes people don't put the two together, but so
You're a musician.
yeah. So I like YouTube. YouTube has become like the channel of choice for me. So there's two things that I really like. Back in August of 2020, I'd been looking online because I have an RV, but it's one of those 40-foot long RVs. And I bought that a long time ago. And then the idea was to be able to drive around, go to state parks, and work remotely in the state park. But then I realized 40 foot is too long. It's just, you make a wrong turn, it's a disaster. And it's too big. So I use that for part of the every Titans home game. We have a tailgate. If you go to GaryAshtonTailgate.com, you can see the video. Like there's a little drone video, and I have the RV wrapped, and so now it's like a traveling billboard. So then when the pandemic and everything going on, it's like I like the idea of just being able to go out, me and the dog. So I ended up looking at all these different RVs. So this is a perfect example of trying to figure out how you would buy something but never actually physically seeing it, which was, I think a lot of people can relate to that now because they're buying homes sight unseen because they're utilizing technology. So I was looking on these sites and there was a guy called, it kept coming up, this guy, and this Matt's RVs. It's the only website that reviews RVs independently. That's the way his catch line is. So it was Matt's RV reviews. And so I kept watching his show, and I ended up contacting him, and I ended up buying an RV from him just because I liked his personality. If you Google Matt's RVs, you'll find him. He's an awesome dude. He's in Ocala, and so I watched the RV reviews that he was doing, and so that led into watching shows about van life, couples and single guys and girls that are just traveling around in their RVs. And so strangely enough, I watched those. But then my other show that I watch religiously is a guy called Rick Beato. So he's out of Atlanta. He's a all-around musician, producer, writer. And he does these awesome shows where he'll take, I think the ones I really like are what makes the song great. So he will kind of dissect it, and he'll bring down the faders so you can hear just the drum track, or you can hear just the guitar track, and then you see how the guitar and drums work together, and he'll point out all these things that you really didn't know they were there, but they're subliminal, but they add to the whole, just the whole power of the song, as it were. So that's what I've been watching.
That's awesome.
It's a good analogy because I always say the team is like, you're talking about the important people. It's like how do we have such, the number one Remix team in the world? Well, it's not obviously because of me, it's because of everybody that's part of our band, as it were. So I feel like I'm the drummer. I feel like we got Scott over there playing bass. Scott and I work really well together. We got Deborah playing guitar, lead vocals. She's the so if you take each individual piece away, it doesn't gel, doesn't work as well. So the agents are all there working as well. So
I heard recently this quote, and I think it attributes to your success and such. It said, the lifetime of an opportunity must be taken within that lifetime of that opportunity. And when you're looking at it, there are many things that you've discussed over today that whether we're talking about IDX or SEO or being ready to I know you said luck, vision, and money.
Yeah.
I think you make your own luck, in many cases. And I think you got to be
by that vision
aware.
money that you have, that's how you make your luck.
Agreed to. You got to be aware of your surroundings. But Gary, listen, you were really, really great, and I very much appreciate all your time. I know you're very, very busy, and congratulations on all your success, and it's certainly warranted with your whole team's success. And we certainly appreciate you being on Breakfast with the Broker. So Breakfast with the Broker every Tuesday at 9 a.m. Next week we'll go local. We go with the City of Lake Worth Beach's mayor, and we can't wait to have them on and talk about some local issues as well. So Gary Ashton, listen, we can find you all over the place. All you have to do is Google Gary Ashton. He comes up, or you put in #1 RE/MAX agent in the world. He comes up.
Team in the world.
Team. I'm sorry. Team in the world, and it's Officer Dibble, not Dribble.
Yeah. So hey, I'll tell you one thing though. So Canada is on our tails. I think right now, Frank Leo.
Yeah.
I think he's like in the year-to-year races, he's doing pretty well. I think he's actually #1 right now. So we're having to fight to get, our #1 spot back. But for now, we're #1 until the next results come out in, I think it's March of next year.
It's harder to stay at #1 than it is to get at #1, as they say.
Yeah.
Take care, Gary. Thanks so much.
Right.
Have a great week, and I appreciate you.
All right. See you soon.
Be well. Take care.
Ciao.